When love turns into a lie, how far would you go to uncover the truth? Lacey thought Adan was the man of her life, but a dark secret and a series of betrayals push her to face her greatest fear, that the love story she lived was never real. Join her on her journey toward the truth, as she discovers that the most powerful magic isn't always the one you believe.
Sylvia Cross hated crowds, but she hated ignoring her instincts more. The invitation came on thick, cream-colored cardstock scented faintly with lavender. "Come celebrate Lacey's last weekend of freedom," it read in looping gold script. The bride's cousin, Jenna, had hired Sylvia for the weekend, tarot readings, a little spiritual entertainment. Easy money. Or it should have been. She packed light, her trusted tarot deck, a silver pendulum, and the polished obsidian she used when her gut felt unreliable. By Friday afternoon, she was bumping down a gravel road toward a remote lakeside cabin outside Asheville, North Carolina. The sun was low, golden light flickering between tall pines. The cabin was enormous, more mansion than lodge. Sylvia stepped out, adjusting her scarf against the early autumn chill. A group of women spilled out onto the porch, clutching champagne flutes and squealing with laughter. One of them, a blonde in a veil, locked eyes with Sylvia. "You must be the psychic." "Sylvia," she said with a nod. "I'm Lacey. Thanks for coming. I love spooky stuff." Not spooky, Sylvia thought. Just real. That night, she set up in the sunroom, a cozy space with string lights, oversized cushions, and candles that flickered like fireflies. One by one, the women came in, giggling and curious. Some asked about love. Others asked about money, babies, or moving across the country. Sylvia answered gently, skimming the truth just enough to keep the tone light. But when Lacey came in, everything shifted. "You ready?" Lacey grinned, clearly tipsy but still sharp. "Shuffle the deck," Sylvia said. "Ask a question, even silently." Lacey nodded and ran her fingers over the cards. Sylvia laid out 3, past, present, future. The first, 2 of cups. A strong bond. A beginning of love. The second, the lovers. Deep connection, but a choice. Sometimes temptation. The third, the fool. Sylvia blinked. Her fingers hovered over the card. A cliff. A leap. Blind faith. A warning. She looked up. "Are you sure you know this man?" Lacey's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "The fool represents a new journey." "Yes, but also someone who leaps without looking." Lacey laughed. "That's me. I moved in with him after 2 months. I know, impulsive, right?" Sylvia smiled thinly. "Sometimes impulse leads us home. Sometimes it leads us off a cliff." Lacey shrugged. "Love is a risk." After the reading, Sylvia stepped outside alone. The cool night air bit at her cheeks. She looked up at the crescent moon and whispered, "What am I missing?" She pulled the Fool card again from the deck. Then again, and again. Sylvia couldn't sleep. The Fool card sat on her nightstand. She'd reshuffled the deck 3 times and still pulled it. Each time, the same card. That wasn't chance. She sat in bed, wrapped in a wool blanket, laptop balanced on her knees. She typed in the groom's name, Adam Keene. The results were ordinary at first. A few social media profiles. A LinkedIn page that hadn't been updated in 3 years. Then she clicked deeper. A post on a local wedding forum caught her attention. "Adam Keene left me 2 days before the wedding. Took the deposit and vanished. Be careful, ladies." Curious, Sylvia clicked the profile. A woman named Julia from Pittsburgh. Her photos were public. She and Adam smiled in one. He wore the same watch Lacey had mentioned. Sylvia searched again. New combinations. Adam Keene engagement. Adam Keene wedding canceled. More hits. Camille in Tampa. Teresa in Denver. Michelle in Sacramento. 5 women. 5 cities. All engaged in the past 18 months. All left behind. Lacey was number 6. But it got darker. A thread on a missing persons forum mentioned a woman named Evie, last seen with a man fitting Adam's description. Disappeared after their engagement was announced. No leads. Sylvia copied everything, screenshots, photos, threads. Her printer hummed softly, churning out evidence. She laid the papers out on the desk. The Fool card sat in the center. The next morning, Sylvia skipped breakfast. Her hands were cold. She paced the hall outside the kitchen. Lacey sat on a cushion by the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket, laughing with Jenna. She looked so happy. Sylvia hesitated. What if she was wrong? What if it was a mistake? But the Fool never lied. Only the reader did. "Lacey," she said softly, "can we talk in private?" Jenna raised an eyebrow. Lacey looked concerned. She followed Sylvia upstairs to the small study. Sylvia closed the door. I did a search last night. On Adam. I need you to see something. She showed her the photos. The threads. The names. At first, Lacey laughed it off. People post anything. Then she stopped. Her fingers tightened on a photo. That's his apartment. And that ring, he said it was custom. Sylvia said nothing. Just waited. Lacey sat heavily in the armchair. Her shoulders shook. I thought he loved me, she whispered. He said we were soulmates. He may have said the same to all of them. I need to hear it. From one of them. I need proof in his voice. Sylvia messaged Julia. Within hours, she had screenshots. Voice messages. A video clip of Adam singing a love song to her on the beach. Lacey watched in silence. Then she nodded. He needs to see me see it. Adam arrived Sunday afternoon, surprising everyone. He pulled into the driveway in a sleek black rental wearing a blazer and that same smirking confidence. Ladies, he said, stepping onto the porch. He kissed Lacey's cheek. Hope I'm not crashing. Lacey smiled. Not at all. Let's take a walk. They went to the sunroom. Sylvia stood nearby, hidden but close. Who's Julia? Lacey asked. Adam blinked. What? Or Camille? Teresa? Michelle? Should I keep going? Or Evie, who disappeared? His smile faltered. You're confused. Those are friends. She showed him the printouts. He turned pale. You were never planning to marry me, she said. I didn't know how to get out of it. So you strung me along like the others? No, Lacey, it was different with you. I swear. That's what they all said you said. He stood flustered. This is insane. You're listening to a psychic over your own fiancé. No, she said calmly. I'm listening to the facts. And I've already sent them to a detective in Pittsburgh. He froze. You, what? You should go, Adam. Before someone comes looking. He stormed out. The tires screeched as he peeled away. The wedding was canceled. The vendors refunded. Lacey spent a week in the mountains, surrounded by friends who toasted to her strength. She cried the first night, then the second, but by the third, she laughed. Can you believe I almost married that guy? She said, sipping cider. Sylvia stayed quiet but supportive. Jenna offered Sylvia a bonus. No, Sylvia said. I was just doing my job. As she packed her bag, she found the Fool card again, tucked under her pillow. This time she didn't feel dread, because sometimes the Fool falls. But sometimes the Fool walks away just in time to learn. And sometimes the psychic sees the danger before it strikes. Sylvia returned to her apartment with the lingering scent of pine still clinging to her scarf. She unpacked slowly, letting the silence settle. No Fool card this time, just her own thoughts, echoing with what-ifs and near misses. A week later, an envelope arrived. No return address, just her name in loopy handwriting. Inside was a letter. Dear Sylvia, I don't know if you remember me, Julia, from Pittsburgh. I was the first one you reached out to about Adam. First, thank you. For believing something was off. For looking closer. For saving that woman from the same fate I went through. I wish someone had been there for me when it happened. You asked for information, but you also gave me something, closure. I never really got it from him. Not after the deposit disappeared, or the calls stopped, or when my sister found his dating profile 2 weeks later. But knowing he didn't just ghost me, that he'd made a pattern of this, it made me angry, yes. But also free. Because it wasn't about me. It was about him. After your message, I went through my old photos and journals. And I found something strange, a receipt tucked into a book I never remembered reading. It was for a motel outside Savannah. The date? 2 days after he left me. That night I dreamed of water. Of someone whispering to me from under the lake. I know how that sounds. But something tells me you'll understand. Enclosed is the receipt. Maybe it's nothing. But maybe it's something. Thank you again for seeing the truth when others didn't. Warmly, Julia. Sylvia turned the receipt over. Her fingers brushed the motel's name, Red Pines Inn, and a date she now recognized as the day Adam vanished from yet another woman's life. And scrawled in the corner, barely visible, a room number, 13. She stared at it. The Fool card wasn't finished with her yet. The motel sat like a forgotten tooth at the edge of the marshland, cracked sign, flickering vacancy light, paint peeling in strips like molted skin. Sylvia parked her car beside a crooked lamppost. The Red Pines Inn looked as though it hadn't been touched since the 1980s, but her fingers tingled as they gripped the steering wheel. Room 13 was on the far end, next to a half-drained pool covered with algae and leaves. A rusted chair swayed on the porch. Sylvia stepped out, gripping her obsidian stone in her pocket. She wasn't sure what she expected: Adam, a ghost, a memory, but her instincts pulsed like a second heartbeat. The door to room 13 wasn't locked. Inside, the room smelled of mold and faint lavender, the same scent from the invitation. Her skin prickled. She moved slowly, eyes scanning every detail: the old-fashioned TV, the dusty Bible, the dent in the mattress. On the bedside table sat a small object. A ring. Silver, with an opal center. Sylvia didn't touch it. Instead, she crouched down, searching under the bed. A scrap of paper fluttered out from beneath the frame, water-stained, torn. On it, scribbled in shaky handwriting: "She's under. She waits." He lied. He lies still. Sylvia rose slowly. Her breath clouded in the air, though the heater buzzed faintly. She pulled out her pendulum and held it over the ring. It spun, fast and violent, in tight circles. Then stopped. The temperature dropped, and the mirror above the dresser clouded. Sylvia blinked. A woman's face appeared in the fogged glass. Dark curls, pale skin, eyes wide with something like sorrow and rage. "Evie." The mirror shattered. Sylvia stumbled back, heart pounding. The door slammed shut. A voice, no louder than breath, whispered behind her ear, "Find me." Then silence. When Sylvia fled the room, the ring was gone, but the full card was tucked under her windshield wiper. Sylvia stood in front of the Red Pines Inn, a forgotten relic off a highway in rural Georgia. The siding peeled like old wallpaper, and the air smelled of moss and metal. Room 13 was at the far end, its door warped, its brass number dulled with age. She knocked once. No answer. The motel manager, a hunched man with a lazy eye, had handed her the key with a shrug. "No one's rented that room in years." Said it felt wrong. Sylvia entered. The room was empty but not silent. There was a hum beneath the silence, like water running deep underground. The wallpaper was faded floral. The carpet was damp beneath her boots. And then she saw it, a photo tucked into the bathroom mirror frame. A young woman smiling on a boat. Sylvia flipped it over. "Evie. Lake Lanier, 2021. In blue pen, barely legible, "He brought me here. He said we'd be forever." Sylvia stepped back, her breath catching. A cold breeze kissed her neck, and then the mirror fogged, just briefly, in the shape of a hand. She fled. Outside, night had fallen like a curtain. She drove to the lake Evie mentioned. Lake Lanier. The water was still. Too still. She knelt by the edge, pulled her obsidian stone from her bag, and held it toward the surface. "Evie," she whispered. "Are you still here?" The water rippled. A low voice hummed through the trees. Sylvia felt the full card press against her spine like a warning or a nudge. And then she saw her. Just a reflection, Evie's face over Sylvia's, but there was sorrow in her eyes. A plea. Not for help. For justice. Sylvia filed everything with Detective Ramos in Pittsburgh: the women, the motel, the lake photo. She kept pressing. Her instincts said Adam was still out there, watching, planning his next move. 3 weeks later, she got a call. "He's in custody," Ramos said. "Picked him up trying to charm his way into another engagement in Memphis. But it gets worse. We found bones near the lake. A woman's ring still on the finger." "Evie." The news rippled across the country. Articles ran: serial fiancé caught. Victims came forward. Families found closure. But for Sylvia, it was never about headlines. She pulled the full card one last time, alone in her kitchen. For once, it felt still. Complete. She burned the card. Not out of fear, but because the journey was over. And next time someone walked blindly toward a cliff, maybe they'd meet someone like her standing at the edge, ready to speak the truth.